With CBC Toronto News, and this is your coronavirus update. Here is where we stand in Ontario. Today, the biggest single-day jump of cases in our province. There are now 78 new cases confirmed, bringing the total number to 503. That includes 6 virus-related deaths and 8 cases that are now resolved. The number of cases under investigation in the province stands at 8,417. There have also been 19,586 people who have tested negative for the virus. The wait period for anyone who has been tested is currently between 5 and 7 days. Non-essential businesses across Ontario will be open for just one more day, the strict order delivered by the Premier today. Nick Boisvert explains what it means.
This is not the time for half measures. This decision was not made lightly.
After days of steadily growing coronavirus cases and deaths, Premier Doug Ford revealed a new reality for businesses and workplaces across Ontario.
This order will be effective Tuesday, March 24th at 11:59 p.m. for 14 days. The next 36 hours will give non-essential businesses the chance to adapt and prepare.
But with the closure deadline approaching, it's not yet clear exactly what the province considers essential. Ford says they'll determine the list and reveal it tomorrow. Public health officials say the decision will help further enforce social distancing and prevent the local transmission of COVID-19 that's now underway.
Yeah, certainly we are concerned that it is spreading, and that's why we're, putting in more measures.
The province says the move won't affect your ability to get groceries or medicine, and that essential stores are restocking and staying open. Ontario's top doctor says conditions at those businesses are improving.
The people managing the cash and that and checkouts are being careful. The people are being careful. They're respecting each other. And I say, well done.
The strict new rules were revealed on a day that's been marked by an increase in pressure and warnings to the public.
We've all seen the pictures online of people who seem to think they're invincible. Well, you're not. Enough is enough. Go home and stay home.
After the Prime Minister scolded Canadians flouting recommendations to self-isolate, Ford singled out snowbirds and recent travelers. He said reports about them leaving their homes was concerning.
Bottom line, full stop. No negotiating, no store, no running to the gas station. You're self-isolating. Simple as that.
The new rules for non-essential businesses will be in effect for at least 14 days, and Ford said he is willing to extend beyond that if necessary. As for the possibility of help for the businesses that will be forced to close, he said Ontario's finance minister will have more details on Wednesday. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
Despite those increased closures, we've learned that LCBO stores will remain open. The province's schools are currently scheduled to reopen in 2 weeks, but with the pandemic nowhere close to being over, today the Premier said that is unlikely.
Do I believe, and does the minister believe, April 6th kids are going back to school? The kids won't be going back to school on April the 6th.
Children across the province have spent the past week off school as part of March break. The Education Ministry has announced it will be working on ways to continue coursework online. They are expected to provide an update in the next few days. A state of emergency has also been declared in the city of Toronto. There are now 239 confirmed cases of COVID-19 here, and with community transmission, Toronto's medical officer of health expects more to come. Our City Hall reporter Lauren Pelly has the details.
As COVID-19 cases keep ticking upward in Toronto, today Mayor John Tory made a bold step, declaring a state of emergency in this city. And this marks the first time since amalgamation that a mayor has used this power. Not during the ice storm did it happen, not during the SARS outbreak. This is a very big move for Tory, and it allows him to make sweeping decisions without going to a council vote. Now, because he's still in isolation after returning from a business trip to London, he made the announcement via teleconference.
This declaration sends the strongest possible message that I can, as the mayor of the City of Toronto, to our residents to stay home and please to change their behavior.
So what exactly can Tory use these powers to achieve? Well, what we know is that it would mean that he'd be bypassing the entire council and committee system, a process that can often take months for items to come through City Hall, get voted on, and finally go to council for that final stamp of approval. Without that whole system in place, he can essentially very quickly get funding for certain measures or make big changes like closing city playgrounds, if he so choose, as a way to keep people apart. Now, Tory says that he made the decision to declare the state of emergency based on conversations with the city's emergency leaders. Take a listen.
We need to see better and more social distancing. There continue to be a number of people congregating in a way that frankly is not helpful in terms of what we're seeking to achieve in terms of trying to protect the health of our city.
If you are engaged in activities, whether you're playing basketball, throwing a frisbee, or having a dinner party, you're putting yourself, your friends, your family members, and your grandparents at risk.
Now, that's the same messaging that we keep hearing over and over from public health officials, that we need to keep people apart to keep them healthy. And the hope is that we'll spread out the number of cases of COVID-19 over time to reduce a sudden burden and oversaturate our healthcare system. Now, Tory says his decision today was made also after conversations with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as well as Premier Doug Ford. And as you've heard, Ford made a big sweeping decision of his own as well, closing all non-essential businesses across Ontario. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
As hospitals in Ontario gear up to deal with an influx of COVID-19 patients, companies aren't the only ones stepping up to help. A person in London is printing 3D masks. Others are sewing them. And a Toronto man is using his 3D printer to make visors for medical staff. Lisa Shing shows us how.
I was approached over the weekend by a friend of the family who's actually a doctor at a Toronto area hospital. And in passing, he actually mentioned that they were starting to run low on these face visors. They ultimately said, like, you know, maybe we should look at maybe crowdsourcing a 3D printed solution. This one just finished up, basically just pulls right up off the bed. And this one is ready to go. This is the part that's actually 3D printed. It's actually very minimal. There's not much to it. And then we take the sheet cover and the standard 3 holes that you would use in the binder, you locate those. You snap these little hooks into each hole. And then in the back, there's 2 little loops where you just thread an elastic band through. And then if you'll bear with me removing my headset. There you go. We actually have a few of these going out to a lab called Clean Slate UV based out of Toronto here, where they're just going to run this through a disinfection device multiple times just to see how it holds up. The more people that we have who really feel that they can genuinely help in a situation like this, as opposed to sitting there feeling a little helpless, the better.
Canadian athletes will not be participating in the 2020 Summer Olympics. It looks like the Tokyo Games will be postponed. Olympic swimmer Kylie Maas medaled in Rio. She was hoping to do the same in Tokyo. She joins us now. A lot of athletes, Kylie, have been calling for postponement. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I'm definitely relieved now that Canada has spoken out, and I'm extremely proud to be Canadian and to have such fantastic leadership from the COC and from the Paralympic Committee in stating that we won't be participating if the games continue this summer. It's obviously is a bit heartbreaking, and you know, I don't really know what's to come next for me, but it's all important right now in being great citizens for our community and for Canada and for the rest of the world.
Now, have you been training, Kylie, through COVID, through this, before this announcement? Your trials were actually supposed to start next week.
Yeah. No, I haven't. Not in the pool, at least. Our facilities have closed down, so I've been out of the pool for the last 10 days. But I've been trying to keep up, doing the best I can, like many other athletes across the country, just with what I have at home and different body weight circuits and getting outside for a bike ride or a walk or, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of home gym time for a lot of people right now through this COVID mess. For some older athletes, This also could be their last shot. Does this now end some people's Olympic dreams?
It's hard to say. I think a lot of athletes are still probably processing it, and we plan so much in advance, and a lot of our careers and everything else outside of sport is planned around this quadrennial. So there's going to be a lot of athletes who are going to have to figure some things out, and that's definitely up to each athlete, and whether they will continue to go for another year, or if, this was maybe just it. But I think that's so individualized.
Athletes have been trying to peak for these summer games. What does this mean then for you personally now as an athlete? What does postponement mean for Kylie Maas?
Yeah, I'm still kind of figuring it out. The news was so recent, and I don't really have, we don't really have anything right now that we need to be planning for. So I'm just, doing my part as trying to stop the spread of the virus, and, staying self-isolated. But for my training purposes, I'll continue to be active in the best way possible, and do some online classes maybe, or different body weight stuff, and just do the best I can until I kind of speak to my coaches and hear a bit more plan of what we have coming up next.
Well, we won't be cheering for you, unfortunately, in 2020. Hopefully, Kylie, we will be cheering for you in 2021. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Remember, you can always find the very latest on the coronavirus at cbcnews.ca. In other news tonight, Kylie Slater has been found guilty of first-degree murder in the killing of Tess Ritchie. The jury came back with the verdict this evening after deliberating since Friday. It is one of the few trials to continue in Ontario. Most have adjourned due to COVID-19 concerns. The Crown alleged Slater sexually assaulted and then strangled Ritchie before leaving her body at the bottom of an outdoor stairwell in the city's gay village in 2017. A first-degree murder conviction carries an automatic life sentence with no possibility of parole for 25 years. A two-alarm fire engulfed an abandoned building today in the city's downtown. Crews were called to the boarded-up building on Wellington near Spadina just after 11:30 a.m. Toronto Fire reported that explosions could be heard coming from the building, and there are unconfirmed reports of a person working inside. Fire crews will be doing a search of the building. Roads in the area have been blocked off. Suzanne, you set a good example for me. It was hovering around 0 this weekend, and I went for a run because you said you do it in the cold, so I said I'd be hardy and tried to.
I thought I saw you down the trail at a very lengthy social distance, I might add.
Yes, ma'am.
That's right. And we all know how key it is for our physical and our mental health to be outdoors, to be active, to get that fresh air. But we absolutely must, vitally important, do it in the right way, responsibly. All right, so if you're heading out this evening for a walk, a stroll, maybe if it's just the balcony or the backyard, you know the rules. Social distance, no groups, avoid any crowded areas. It is a little damp this evening. That's the snow off in Ottawa. Did you see that this morning? Oh, we had a couple centimeters, and it was on and off around southern Ontario. Kitchener-Waterloo area had some snow, a couple centimeters reported at Pearson. It was cool this morning. We warmed up to just above 0, so it was a slushy snow, and then it changed over to rain, and we got to whopping highs of 3-4 degrees, which is just a shade under the seasonal average, which is about 5. But off goes the snow. We've got a mix of sun and cloud for tomorrow. Because the air mass is so damp, it'll get quite saturated, so the relative humidity going up, and that means some fog patches. You know where the prone areas are, I'm sure, in your area, around the GTA. Fairly hilly terrain, right? Up and down Don Valley Parkway, think of that. So some fog patches with some clear breaks here and there. And then tomorrow, largely a mix of sun and cloud, 5, 6, 7 degrees. So a fairly decent day ahead. If we take a look at the morning fog, that could slow you down a little bit. Again, just extra stopping room, and just be mindful of the fact that your visibility may be a bit impaired. So our average is about 6 degrees at this time of year. Our average low -4. So we're actually a bit above average for tonight, just below the 0 mark for overnight lows. The long-range outlook, spring, like fall, could be a very volatile season. They're transition seasons. So we've got warmer air masses advancing into cold air that is sometimes reluctant to leave. Having said that, instead of wild weather this week, it's kind of ho-hum. We've got a mix of sun and cloud for Tuesday. We've got systems to our north and south for Wednesday. And then as we move into Thursday, there's lunchtime. We'll get a few showers advancing towards the GTA Golden Horseshoe. Long-range forecast, we may have a much more robust system coming up this weekend. Sometimes it's very helpful to take a big picture look at the context here. Remember what I was saying about clashing air masses? Well, we've got those systems passing us to the south, so we stay on the damp side, but a larger Colorado low trying to shake shape, and that may bring us a wet period on Saturday or Sunday. So Dwight may get a little soggy if he decides to keep up with the running next weekend. Get your fresh air, do it safely, do it properly. Here is a look at your long-range forecast. The trend, remembering that our normal is around 5-6 degrees at this time of year. So our morning fog, our morning dry, our later day showers. Dwight, there's the trend. So a bit of an up on Thursday temperature-wise, but a fairly quiet week, weather-wise at least.
Things are so crazy. We will take ho-hum in the weather department. Thank you, Suzanne.
Sure. Thanks.
That is all for us at CBC Toronto News tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.